Have you ever walked out of a room with that feeling only winners know? The world felt too small to contain the size of what I had just accomplished. My heart was still racing, the applause still echoing in my ears, the taste of champagne still on my lips. I was the star, the woman who, against all odds, closed the biggest deal in the company's history. $1 billion contract. No one thought I could do it, not even the CEO. But I went in there and made it happen. They smiled, toasted to me, gave speeches with my name in them. And that's when the invitation came. Ashley, could you stop by the executive office? They want to speak with you privately. In my head, it was all good things. A promotion, a massive bonus, maybe even a seat on the board. I walked into that room like I was stepping onto a red carpet. Sat up straight, heart racing with anticipation. But it took just one sentence, only one, to freeze everything. We're undergoing a strategic restructuring. It felt like the floor had been pulled out from under me. And in the minutes that followed, while I was still trying to process what was happening, they said, with the calm of people who had rehearsed every word, I would be reassigned to an operational role. Less prestige, less impact. And the salary? Cut in half. Yes, in half. I smiled. One of those hard smiles you make when you haven't figured out if it's a prank or a nightmare. But it was real. And it was only the beginning. My name is Ashley Morgan. I'm 35, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, where the sky is gray half the year, but we learn to shine anyway. I never had a powerful last name. Never inherited anything except my mom's stubbornness and my dad's work ethic, who spent his life saying, if you want something, get up and build it. And I built it, brick by brick. College on scholarship. MBA fueled by night shifts and cold coffee. Flawless deliverables, sleepless nights, targets crushed. I became that professional everyone knows as the woman who gets it done. When I joined that company years ago, I was just another manager trying to survive among gray-suited executives and endless meetings. But I rose. One project at a time, one less problem on their radar. Until the day they gave me a nearly impossible account, an international client no one could close. That's when everything changed. Because I didn't just close it, I turned it into a historic milestone. I made history in that company. And ironically, that's what destroyed me. In my mind, that meeting was just an informal ceremony. A more private thank you. Maybe a proposal for a new position with those dream words, C-level, partner, board. But the expression on the three men sitting across from me was the first red flag. No excitement, no spark in their eyes. Just that calculated neutrality, the kind people wear when delivering bad news without emotional investment. Ashley, in light of our new governance directive, we're implementing a strategic restructuring. I heard it, but I didn't understand. I sat still, waiting for the good part, the real explanation, the but that would justify the rehearsed speech. But it never came. They continued meticulously. You'll be reassigned to a more operational role. Internal. Process structuring. We need you where your experience will be useful. Useful? After everything I built? After landing a deal that would multiply the company's profits for years? And, of course, the role comes with a different compensation band. Reduced by half. Half. They cut my salary in half. The justification was corporate soup, functional synergy, strategic alignment, governance improvement. Empty words used to mask cowardly decisions. I looked each of them in the eye. Searched, in vain, for any hint of shame. Nothing. They had already made peace with their decision long ago. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how they made it seem normal. As if it were reasonable to dismantle a woman at her peak and expect her to say thank you for the opportunity. I left that room without saying a word. But inside me, something broke. And something else woke up. You know that feeling of being buried alive while the world keeps spinning like nothing happened? That's how I felt that week. People were still praising my achievement in the hallways, not knowing I had already been shoved into a dark corner of the company. But I'm not the type to take a hit with a smile. While I played my new role like a badly written script, I started watching. Internal documents, emails, small shifts in the leadership structure. And one name kept popping up: Mark Decker, VP of Finance and the CEO's right-hand man. Decker was never a fan of my spotlight. And conveniently, the deal I closed created new international exposure, the kind that attracted a foreign investment fund interested in acquiring the company. The kind of acquisition that would only go through if independent figures were removed. Like me. That's when I understood. My demotion wasn't bad luck. It was a calculated move. I had become an obstacle. And in toxic corporate environments, obstacles aren't confronted. They're elegantly discarded. So, I decided to flip the script. I started collecting evidence, meeting logs, contradictory decisions, doctored spreadsheets. I created an anonymous profile and contacted an investigative journalist, someone who loved uncovering quiet corruption in the corporate world. But I didn't stop there. I made sure to leave subtle traces. Little signs that I knew more than I let on. Brief emails. Questions that were too simple. Innocent comments about contractual clauses only I would remember by heart. I wanted them to know, to feel it, that something was coming. And when I saw they were starting to get uneasy, that's when the first twist hit. At first, I thought I'd been punished for being too successful, the old story of insecure men afraid of a woman outshining them. But the truth was even more twisted. In the second week of my silent investigation, I found a hidden attachment in one of the international negotiation backups. A supplemental document, signed by Decker and the CEO, that altered one of the key clauses of the billion-dollar contract. The deal I closed was just a facade. The version I signed included full protection for the company against partial sales of controlling interest. But the final version removed that clause. That allowed the foreign fund to buy controlling interest for a fraction of its value, as long as certain leaders, like me, were removed so we couldn't interfere. That change was made after I finalized the negotiation. And they used my image, my credibility, my signature, as a seal of trust. Then tossed me aside like discarded wrapping paper. The contract I fought so hard to close, the one I thought would secure my place at the top, was the same one they used to justify cutting me out. It was more than betrayal. It was forgery, market manipulation, corruption. And now I had proof. But with proof come risks. And it didn't take them long to realize I was digging where I shouldn't. That's when the game changed. Things started getting weird way too fast. My badge stopped working in areas I always had access to. Meetings started getting canceled last minute, without explanation. A report I had written was sent out with changes, but my name was still on it. What really made my blood run cold, though, was the anonymous message: "Be careful what you're looking for. Some doors shouldn't be opened." That was it. They knew, and they were warning me. That night, I went home looking over my shoulder. Changed every password. Left a flash drive with the most compromising files hidden outside my home, with a friend who had no idea what was on it, just that if anything happened to me, she should give it to the press. Because yes, by that point, it wasn't just about my career anymore. It was about my safety, and about exposing a rotten structure that silenced anyone who threatened the profit. I started being followed. At first, I thought it was paranoia. But then I saw the same car parked near my building 3 different times, at different hours. I was at the center of a storm. And even though I knew the game was dirty, I had no idea the next move would come from the last person I expected. When you feel cornered, your instinct splits. You either run or you strike back. I chose the latter. And what changed everything wasn't just my courage, it was who showed up on the other side. Remember that minority shareholder, Mr. Bennett? Quiet man, soft-spoken. Always seemed invisible in board meetings? Yeah, him. He asked to speak to me discreetly, and what he told me made my skin crawl. Bennett had suspected the scheme for a while. He'd been collecting info silently for years. Documents, internal email threads, whitewashed audits. But he never had the guts or backup to act until he saw what they did to me. That was his breaking point. Together, we put together a complete dossier, altered contracts, stock manipulation, fraudulent governance practices. But the crown jewel came from an unexpected place. A former compliance employee, fired months earlier, agreed to cooperate in exchange for anonymity. He had copies of the original records, with the clauses I had personally approved before the edits. Date, time, file location. Undeniable proof that everything had been manipulated after my signature. It was the missing piece. And then, with Bennett by my side, we dropped the bomb. We delivered the dossier to the Corporate Justice Department and the financial press at the same time. By the next morning, the company was in every headline. Stock tanking, executives subpoenaed, emergency audit opened, and more. The foreign fund backed out of the acquisition, citing contractual fraud and undisclosed legal risks. They tried to erase me. I lit a spotlight right in their faces. The following months were a whirlwind. The CEO and Decker both resigned under internal pressure. The company launched a genuine restructuring process, for real this time. I was approached by law firms, corporate ethics funds, even universities wanting me to tell my story. But I didn't go back. Didn't want another title. I started my own consultancy, focused on protecting behind-the-scenes professionals like me. Good, competent people who are vulnerable to dirty politics. Today, when I think back to that room, the moment I thought my career was over, I smile. Because that was the beginning of something much bigger. They took me down thinking it would be the end. But all they really did was hand me the perfect reason to build something no one can ever take away.